Welcome back. My name is Tim Munz and I teach into the Electrical Techniques program here at Niagara College. Level 1, today we're going to work on a four-way switch lab. If you haven't watched the three-way switch lab, I would encourage you to do so before you watch this one here. You need to understand the three-way switch system before we get into the four-way switch system. A three-way switch system is designed so that we can switch a load from more than one location, so from two locations to switch a load. We need a four-way switch system if we're going to switch for more than two loads. So again, if we have 100 doorways we want to switch from, on each end of our circuit we have to have two three-way switches. And then we'd have to have 98 four-way switches in between that. So for our lab today, we've left some of the stuff together from our three-way switch lab. We've taken our device box and just kind of moved it over a little bit, left our wire up to our light, and then we left our power from our panel over to our first switch, and then we're going to put in our another box in between here. Okay, so starting our labs at Niagara College here, we always do our lockout tagout test procedures first. So we're going to make sure that we take our tester, make sure that our tester is on voltage. We're going to take our tester to a known source, and we're going to test our tester to ensure that it works. We're going to make sure that our breaker is off. We're going to take our cover off our panel, and then we're going to test our panel to ensure that it's not live. So we're going to take one lead and put it on the ground. The second lead we're going to put onto our neutral. Then we're going to go from there, we're going to go to line 1. Then we're going to go to line 2. Then we're going to go up to our neutral bar from line 2, and then from line to line. Seeing that there's no power here, now we can continue our lab. So our lock and our tag is on our panel and we're ready to go. So any box that we put in for our four-way switch, we're going to have a little bit deeper box. The switch itself, the four-way switch itself, takes up a little more volume in the box, and also we're going to have two 3-conductor wires in there. So we have a little more wire in there, a little more box fill. So we're going to use a little bit bigger box. Our box now that we're going to use is still 2 inches wide, 3 inches high, but it's 3 inches deep. It's just that half an inch deeper. It still has our tabs on here to hold it out from our wall studs so that we're half an inch out for our drywall. And then we'll mount our boxes, and then we'll continue running our wire, and then we'll wire up our devices. Okay, so for residential, always put all your boxes in first, then run all your wires and staple them all in completely, and then we'll do your devices. So our three-way switch box, our four-way switch box, we're going to mount that up at 4 feet off the floor. Again, we're just going to use some 3-inch screws to hold the box on. And on the job, in the trade, you're probably going to use like a 3 1/4, 3.5 inch RDOX nail. In here, again, we just use the 3-inch screws just because it's easier to take the lab apart. And we're going to use the same procedure. We're going to start from one end of our circuit from our panel to our first device box with our 2-conductor, from our device box to our four-way switch box, our other device box. We're just going to run our wire, our 3-conductor, again, wrap it around the box, cut it off to the proper length that you need. Again, we're just reusing some of this wire just to save on the use of the cost of the wire. So now we're going to take another 3 conductor to our third device box. We're going to wrap it around the box once. We're going to staple it on. We're going to run it to our second device box. Again, make a nice little loop up here with our wire. And then we're going to wrap it around our box once. And we can cut it off. We can put one more staple in this one. We have to ensure that we staple it on the side of the side. Now that our wires are in, we're going to strip our wires. Again, the 3 conductor wires are a little bit easier if we strip them from the side, so we're going to go from the bottom of our box. Just got to go nice and easy and make sure that you don't nick any of the conductors inside the sheath. And again, we'll take our second wire. Again, bring it to the front of the box. Strip it off. Go to our next device box here. Now that our wires are stripped, we're going to install them into our boxes. We're going to go to our far box here, pushing the wire straight up. Make sure that it's behind the strap. Make sure that the sheath just goes past the strap. We take our Red Robertson screwdriver and we're going to tighten it up. Just snug it up. We're going to separate our insulated conductors from our bond wires. From the internal bond wire in the conductor. And again, you don't have to wrap the wire around the screw. You just need to run it in tight beside the screw underneath the head, and there's perforations in the back of the box that'll hold the wire in place. And again, we only need the one wire, bond wire, and on these devices they're not required to have a bond wire on them. We don't need them here, so we're just going to coil it up and stick it in the back of the box. Again, we're going to separate out our neutrals. Put my hand against the back of the box again. Do that so we get our 150 millimeters of free conductor. We're going to strip off 19 millimeters or 3/4 of an inch of wire. Take our linesman pliers. Twist the wires up nice and neatly. With our linesman pliers, we have cutters on one side and we have a void on the other side. So both the thickness of our linesman again, we're just going to cut this wire that we twisted together just to give us a nice length for our morettes. Twist the wire up. Coil in the back of the box. Again, this time we're just going to take our hand against the back of the box again, cut our wires off, separate out our wires from the ones that go up to the light, because that's got to go on our common, and our black and our red on our 3 conductor is still our travelers. So we're going to strip some insulation off our conductors. Again, about 19 millimeters, 3/4 of an inch if you that route. And again, curl them on, just roll it down your thumb and you're good. Okay, now our middle box takes our 4-way switch. We got 2 3 conductors into it. Again, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to lift them straight up, run them in our box behind the strap. Again, our bond wires, separate our bonding wires from our insulated conductors, putting behind the screws in the back of the box. We're going to cut one off, and then we're going to just coil the other one into the back of the box. In this lab, we won't require the bond wires. If your device has bond screws on them, so your grounding screws on your device, you have to use them. If your devices don't, well, then you just coil them into the back of the box. But if your devices have bond screws on them, you should use them. You must use them. So again, we've done our bonds, and again, we're going to do it in order. We're going to do our neutrals. Twist them up nice and neatly to ensure that we have a really good connection. Cut off a little bit of the extra that we don't need. Put our wire nut, our marette on and just coil it into the back of the box. We want to keep our travelers coming from one box separate from coming from the other box. We need to keep these travelers separate so we can keep track of them. We don't want to mix them up. Again, we'll get our 150 millimeters of free conductor that we need to use to attach our devices. Put our hooks on them. So our 4-way switch that we need to install there. Our 4-way switch can be identified, again, by its 4 terminals and absent of its on and off on the toggle. If you grab a switch or a device that has 4 terminal screws on it and has on and off marked on the toggle, then you have a double pole switch. So this is how we're going to tell the difference between the two, is that a 4-way switch does not have the on and off marked on the toggle. Okay? So, to verify these switches and which direction you need these connections, you should get out a continuity tester and ensure that you're making your connections properly. On these 4-way switches, we have to have one set of travelers coming in the top, and then the other set of travelers going out the bottom. So my travelers that are coming in from the top, I'm going to take from my first three-way switch, and I'm going to put them on the top of my switch. And it really doesn't matter what side of the switch they go on, just as long as they're going on to the top of the switch. Again, ensure that your wires are going around the switch clockwise. Again, we're going to snug them up. And then we're going to take the next set of travelers that goes to our other three-way switch, and we're going to put them on the other end of the switch. Again, ensuring that you're going to put your hooks around those terminal screws clockwise. When you snug it up, it should pull that conductor right around the switch. And there's our four-way switch. Our second three-way switch. Again, our common needs to go up to our luminaire, and the two silver screw or brass screws are your travelers. So again, we're going to make sure to keep them separate. We're going to take the wire that goes up to our light, put it on our common, and then our travelers don't really matter what side of the switch they go on. Clockwise, snug them up. And there we have our four-way switch lab, and the three-way switch on each end, and then the four-way switch in the center. The four-way switch is just going to take your travelers and it's just going to break them up. So it's just going to take them from red to black, and it just switches them from black to red and black to red. So it just reverses them and allows the circuit to work. And there's our four-way switch lab for today.